All right, I think I'm gonna get things started, and as attendees join, I'll add them to the chat. Sorry, to the Zoom call. Want to start with a really quick introduction. Really excited to have Shihab and Salman here from NOMU Group to talk about what they're building and in general the food system in the MENA region. Just upfront, if you have questions from the audience, feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them towards the end of the event. Quick thanks as well to our partners for helping put this event together and spreading the word to their networks. Quick shout out to TechWadi. TechWadi, for those who are unfamiliar, is a leading nonprofit for the Arab American diaspora working in tech and builds bridges between Silicon Valley and the MENA region through regular programming and a flagship annual forum. ABANA is our other partner that helped us put this together, and they're the preeminent US organization for finance professionals and institutions with an interest in the Middle East and North Africa. They're best known for similarly a robust calendar of events that provide members with new professional connections, access to timely business intelligence, and direct contact to other global business leaders. So huge thank you to both of them. In addition, some of you might not be familiar with Viaka ourselves. Our mission is to facilitate the flow of expertise and capital between startup ecosystems in the Middle East and North Africa and the West at large. We're currently working on two pillars. We have our Viaka network, which is a membership digital community for top-tier founders, experts, investors, and talent across the globe with a connection or an interest in the MENA region. And those folks who are looking to connect with each other over mutually beneficial opportunities. Our second pillar is Viaka Connect, which is a hands-on dedicated matchmaking service that empowers our clients, namely startups and venture funds, to grow their businesses and portfolios. I'll post a link in the chat in a second if you're interested in learning more about Viaka. With all of that said, let me introduce NOMU and the leadership team that we have with us here today. So NOMU is a MENA-based startup with a vision to create a world-class, sustainable, and equitable food system that supports and empowers families and food and beverage businesses. They're backed by some of the MENA region's premier investors and currently raising their pre-Series A round. With us today, we have two key members of NOMU's leadership team. Salman is the chairman of the company. He brings over 12 years of experience in FMCG, retail, and venture capital to the table, including previous positions at Procter & Gamble. He has a successful track record of investments and exits in the F&B space and a deep understanding of the FMCG and retail industries as a key driver in shaping the company's strategic direction. Shihab is also a seasoned executive with over 15 years of experience in the FMCG space and investment banking. He's a serial entrepreneur, having successfully sold his food distribution company to NOMU Group. As CEO of the company, Shihab brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table, having navigated the complex and dynamic landscape of the FMCG industry in the MENA region. Shihab, Salman, thank you both so much for joining us today. To kick things off, very simple, would love to just hear you describe NOMU in your own words. Tell us what it is you guys are working on.
Thank you, Hani, for the great introduction and for putting this together. Pleasure to be here today. Essentially, what we're trying to do at NOMU is build a new food distribution network in Saudi Arabia and the MENA region altogether. As the economies are expanding and the population is growing rapidly, we feel that the current logistics supply chain in the region is underperforming and it can be improved.
Yeah, to add on that, first of all, thank you, Hani, for organizing this talk. And hello, everyone. I'm Shihab. To just add on what Salman mentioned, we're basically using technology to disrupt the grocery market. It has so many inefficiencies when it comes to retail market or even the HoReCa market. What we're trying to build in NOMU Group is basically have a very efficient supply chain using technology. To be more specific, we are building very strong relationships with the manufacturers. We deal directly with the top FMCG companies in the region and globally. We source the material from those manufacturers at very good prices, and then we sell directly to either end consumers or F&B businesses. We believe that F&B businesses in the region are struggling to source their products due to the inefficiencies in the supply chain that I just mentioned. By helping them outsource their whole supply chain to NOMU, basically we are decreasing their out-of-stock items. We are helping them manage better their business, which is basically restaurants and preparing meals, and having better profitability as well. How are we helping our manufacturers? We're helping them in terms of route to market. So basically, we're helping them to launch their brands to their customers, whether it's final consumers or even B2B. And we're helping them also to to promote their brands on our tech platform. And this means that it's an easier route to market for those FMCG companies. We're currently present in 4 different countries: Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco, under 2 brand names, one for the B2C, which is Appetito, and one for the B2B, which is Joolati.
Awesome. Yeah, as I mentioned, really excited to have you both. And I think both for myself and a lot of people in the audience, like we're coming to learn about the food system in the Middle East, and we're coming from kind of different varying levels of expertise and knowledge. Would love to, if either of you could just kind of paint an overarching picture of what the food system looks like, what the supply chain, how it works. Might be hard to do so across the entire region, but you guys obviously have a pretty wide breadth of presence. You mentioned 4 countries, and I'm sure that there are other countries on your radar as well. So kind of if you could just help us paint like an overarching general picture of the food supply chain in the region and how things work, that would be great context setting for everyone.
Absolutely. I'll have a go, Shahab, and then please color it in. So obviously the MENA region is quite large, and different countries have different food systems in general because of their geographic location, access to fresh water, etc. I'll start off with Saudi Arabia. When you talk about fresh produce, so vegetables, beef, chicken, the majority of this is imported. 75% of our fresh produce is imported. Obviously, Saudi Arabia is the largest mass land without rivers in the region, so that is expected. This is looking to change in the next 10 years with food security being a primary key concern. In general, we look at 2 segments. So obviously, if we look at the supermarket side, you've got the main distributors or the main importers. Then you've got a middle layer, which is the wholesalers, and they tend to distribute to what we call small corner stores. These corner stores make up around 50% of the market. In Egypt, it's a bit more as well. And then when you look at the F&B side, you don't have that middle layer. And actually, we'll talk about this later. This is a key point. So you got the main distributors, the main suppliers, manufacturers, and then they deliver directly to the restaurants, which is the problem that we're trying to solve here in both regions. So in Egypt, it's slightly different. I'll let Shab color in, but generally they have access to fresh water, so they're importing about only 20 to 30% of fresh produce.
Yeah, thank you, Salman. However, there are other supply chain issues. The market is really fragmented. When it comes to Egypt, a $60 billion annually grocery market size, but it's very fragmented. 80% from this market comes from small independent retailers, which are scattered all over the country. And they are very hard to reach actually from the logistics point of view. So we have a logistics challenge and a fragmented market. What we are building is basically using technology. We are sourcing directly the products directly from the manufacturers, and we are able to sell directly to those, I would say, small independent retailers or even small restaurants, helping them using technology, using the mobile app to source their products in a timely manner and an affordable manner as well. That's how we're disrupting the supply chain issues. Most of those players are before using technology, basically they used to source their products from several layers of wholesalers. So what we see is that basically between the manufacturer and the consumer is basically 6 or 7 traders in between. And this creates a massive increase in price as the product moves. And hence this model is basically not benefiting neither the manufacturer nor the end customer. And that's where our value is in the supply chain itself.
Very interesting. And you guys are obviously, interesting and somewhat unique in that you're now, through both of your brands, targeting end consumers and families as well as businesses. And so I'd be interested for both types of customers, how are they plugging into the end of the supply chain? You touched on the businesses a little bit, but like how often are businesses using digital solutions right now? Families, what's the kind of adoption as well, and like these digital tools versus going to the supermarket versus other avenues? Interested in hearing more about typical consumer behavior in the region right now.
Yeah, good question, Hani. So prior to Corona, about 10% of consumers in Saudi would purchase groceries online, and obviously that exploded over Corona time, reached around 80%, and now it's baseline on 60%. Online grocery has become the norm. It's still quite small. I think represents in MENA or our markets still around 6%, and expected to go to 10% of the total sales in the next 5 to 10 years. So when consumers start adopting consumer tech solutions, the natural progression is for businesses to then start adopting. So what we're seeing today, especially with the large growth in small F&B stores and small restaurants in the region, is that they're looking for more solutions to help them streamline their procurement and their supply chain. That's also further enhanced that it's a very young population, right? 70% is under 35. So these restaurateurs who are opening small restaurants are used to digital solutions and they're looking for them. And this is the gap where we're plugging in. So in both cases, it's become quite the norm. To add to this, Saudi Arabia is open up socially as well. So both male and females are now going to work. So it's become very busy. They don't have time to go to shop. So again, outdoor eating is becoming increasing, online ordering of your food, as well as your groceries, your home goods, your beauty products, etc. And it's on the rise.
That makes sense. And I think like just generally from what I know about the region is, as much as in the US, we've seen COVID and the pandemic as an accelerant to some of these trends. In markets like MENA, it's, the acceleration was tenfold what we had in the US, because it was starting from kind of a lower spot. Shihab, you talked a bit about the fragmentation as a really big pain point in the different layers, especially for businesses in this space when it comes to sourcing products. Would love to just to both of you, like, hear what are kind of the main pain points in the supply chain? Are there any beyond this, like multiple layers, kind of overly confusing steps between initial product and end consumer? Where have things been breaking down?
Yeah, I would start with reliability. I think it's one of the most pain points. Most of the available options, since there is a fragmented market by nature, so having a reliable source of supplier is basically something that we lack in the market, especially when we're targeting small and medium businesses. So those are the ones that really are underserved. So they cannot find a reliable supplier because everyone like doesn't want to deal with those small ones. Like the big ones want to really deal with the big chains and the big retailers as well. So this is number one, reliability, and this is what we are solving using our platform. We promise 12 hours of delivery because we basically predict the inventory and we have it all in stock. So we solve the reliability option. The affordability, because we aggregate the demand, so we're able to compete on prices, and we cut the demand. So we source directly from the supplier, so we're able to compete on that end as well. Number three, what we're also trying to enter is basically financing options. So we want to finance and give credit terms to those small businesses to be able to sustain their business. And for us also, it's an additional revenue stream. So basically we can charge those financing by, and this is going to help those small businesses to expand and will have a very positive impact on the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And kind of led me, Shahab, to the next section that I wanted to focus on, which is a bit about both of you, your backgrounds, and the pain points that NOMU is addressing in particular. So first question is just, each of you obviously started startups separately, started startups in this space addressing some of these pain points. What were, in each case, what was kind of the aha moment, or like what inspired you to actually go after building solutions for some of the problems that you outlined?
Yeah, great question. Back, I think in 2016, I was opening my second restaurant. I had already one that was going quite well. And I realized quickly in the region that the entire supply chain for the F&B businesses is geared towards large or medium restaurants. So what happened is we saw an explosion of the number of restaurants opening in the region, especially in Saudi, because the economy started opening up, and it's the first thing you see, right? Cafes, lounges, small restaurants, 20-seater, 30-seaters. As I previously said earlier in this meeting, that there is no middle layer of kind of wholesalers for the F&B sector that hold frozen, fresh produce. So all these key suppliers were trying to match the demand of the long tail of the market, right? The 70% by quantity that make up 30% by value. And that was the fastest growing sector. And they just couldn't catch up. So what ended up happening was, as a restaurant owner, I had expected 5 to 7 days of delivery, which was terrible. And if I had an emergency, most of the time I bought from the supermarket, I always had to have a driver and a car to go and purchase emergencies again for the supermarket. And 9 out of 10 times, you don't know what, like if they promise you, for example, 10 kilos of chicken coming in 3 days or in 6 days, a day or two before they'll call and give you the exact amount. And it's usually always under, you know, because they're prioritizing key accounts. And that makes sense, right? Why go for the mass when they generate tiny amounts of revenue, and I want to go for the 20% by quantity that make up 80% by value. So that was my aha moment. I wanted to build kind of an outsourced platform that supports the growth of these small restaurants, right? Kind of aggregate the demand of these ever-growing tiny restaurants that are increasing in quantity, and then be that middle layer solution, provide them with finance, and basically give them the power of the large back office support of what kind of large chains have. That was kind of the aha moment. When I started, lockdown happened, so I pivoted. Then I started doing wholesale for families. Post lockdown, we reopened our original idea, and that's been going quite well. And because we target small establishments, we actually are able to take from 80 to 90% of their entire SKU list. So it's a large ticket per customer.
Awesome. And Shihab, what about you? How did you come to the realization you wanted to work on this?
Yeah, actually, I had a similar experience. I used to work as an advisor to one of the small and medium manufacturers, food manufacturers in Egypt. They were struggling big time to distribute their products because the market is really fragmented. So it's either they sell to the big retail chain outlets, the huge ones, and at that moment they have to pay huge listing fees and marketing fees to those big giant retailers. which represent, as I mentioned, 20% of the market, but they are very visible, or they have to go the hard way and start selling to those small retailers, those mom and pop shops. And to go this end, this is like a massive logistics nightmare because they have to own a massive distribution fleet. I've realized that in Egypt, to have a successful food product is basically availability is number one. I mean, it doesn't have to be like the best quality, unfortunately, or even the best price. It has to be on the shelf. And this means that the market is not accepting the good products, it's accepting just the people who just solve the logistics problems. And that's where we thought we want to empower those SMEs that are launching very good quality products, but are unable to reach their customers. They have very good visibility on social media. Customers love their products, but unfortunately, they cannot find those products. So we believe that the online grocery delivery in general, whether getting those brands and selling them directly to consumers, or even helping them to reach the HoReCa market and even the small retailers, is basically we're empowering the SME economy and we're helping local brands increase. And that's where I thought that what we are doing is basically solving for a real purpose.
Mm-hmm. And I know, you guys are kind of just the tip of the iceberg in terms of a really impressive team working on this. Can you just share a little bit more about who else comprises NOMU's leadership team and why they're uniquely qualified to address this?
Sure. So apart from Salman and myself, we have other two co-founders. One of them is Ahmed. Ahmed Demirdash is our COO. He's a Harvard grad, Harvard MBA grad. He used to work as a consultant in McKinsey in Egypt, Dubai, and Saudi Arabia. And then he worked in Swivel as a GM of Egypt before their IPO. He's currently managing our operations, and underneath him, 4 GMs for the countries reporting to Ahmed. So he's basically managing the P&L of each country. We also have our 4th co-founder, which is Yassir. Yassir is a French Moroccan. He's a serial entrepreneur. He has 20 years of experience. He built a startup called Taxi in Morocco that was acquired by Careem, which was eventually acquired by Uber. And he was the GM of Careem in Morocco for a couple of years. And then he built another startup in Tunisia that was sold for OLX. And then he built another startup, which we acquired as Appetito before NOMU. And he joined our team as a 4th co-founder. He's currently managing the product, the growth, and the tech teams.
Awesome. And I know, as you said, there's been a few mergers, acquisitions, et cetera. And at this point, you described before that you're operating in 4 different countries. Talk to me a bit more about the operations. What exactly do you have on the ground in those different countries? What type of like delivery timelines, for example, can you offer, and how are you able to support that?
Yeah, sure. So we have 2 offerings. We have, as I mentioned, our B2C offering, which is a bit different in each country depending on the demography and the market needs. So I'll start with the B2C. The B2C, basically in Egypt, for example, we have 11 warehouses. They act as a mini fulfillment center. We deliver within 1 to 2 hours, and we also have scheduled deliveries. So we deliver to almost 12 different cities or districts in Egypt, in 4 mega cities, I would say Cairo, Giza, Mansoura, and Tanta, with 1 distribution center. This distribution center, we also use it for B2B deliveries. So it's only the big fulfillment center. We use it for any B2B delivery. All of those warehouses we rent them and we operate them, basically, not through a 3PL. But we don't own the assets, obviously. In Tunisia, we have 3 stores. 2 of them are basically fulfillment centers and 1 distribution center for the B2B. 50% of the business in Tunisia is B2B, mainly for small restaurants. In Saudi Arabia, we operate in Jeddah and in Riyadh with 2 different distribution centers. The DC in Saudi Arabia, we use it's both for both the B2C and the B2B. We tend to do bulky items in Saudi Arabia, more of the family packages rather than the single-use pack, which is aligned more with the culture and the spending habits. And that's why we use the main distribution center for selling these items, and also for our B2B, which is basically restaurants, mainly restaurants. In Morocco, we only have one DC. We started our operations in Rabat City, and very soon we're expanding into Casablanca with another distribution center for the B2B as well.
It's amazing, and I know it's, you know, it hasn't been too long for you guys to reach this kind of scale. Tell me about, in general, like traction, like user numbers, and different. You mentioned, for example, like consumer behavior differing from KSA to some of the other markets, and Tunisia having a larger percentage of B2B. So would love to hear some more about like the traction that you've generated and some of the interesting things that you've learned about your users and consumers.
Sure. So our overall annualized revenue is almost $12 billion. We on a country split, Egypt is almost 40%, Saudi Arabia is almost 30%, and then the rest are split between Tunisia and Morocco. Our B2C still is the biggest portion. However, we tend to focus more on the B2B in the next few months, and we believe that the B2B is going to represent at least 50% of our total revenue by the end of this year. I don't know if there's something else you'd like to mention, Salman, in terms of numbers.
Yeah, sure. In terms, we have around 800,000 downloads, and in all between countries approaching 1 million now. And I would say monthly active users at 150,000 monthly active users. In terms of number of restaurants, we're at 65 restaurants now globally. Yeah, but the key part is that we like to take up to 80%, 80 to 90% of the entire SKU list, which is why we focus on small establishments but large average order values.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of it, one thing that's we recently find interesting is that our F&B customers are also willing to pay us a monthly subscription fee because we're solving them such a great pain point, especially here in Saudi. So this has been a nice additional revenue stream. Because we're managing everything from forecasting, sourcing, procurement, storing, and delivery. And the pain point is so big, and we're able to deliver in 12 hours, hold some safety stock for them, and in exchange, we're charging a subscription, monthly subscription fee, as well as sending them a markup. So that's been something quite interesting we learned.
And so the subscription fee gets them access to kind of that entire platform and suite of services that helps them run their business more efficiently.
Yeah, exactly. As an owner now, you can focus on your menu, on expansion, on hiring more people, as opposed to firefighting and trying to manage your supply chain.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, this is all, you know, like really exciting stuff. Great to hear about the growth. I'm sure it's come with the challenges. Salman, you mentioned like pivoting as well early on in the pandemic. What have been some of the obstacles that have really forced you guys to dig deeper, to make decisions, to change direction? Yeah, would love to just hear some of those stories.
Yes, of course. I don't think we touch upon this, but you know, Shahab was operating Appetito, I was operating Jumlati, so we merged, right? We actually have a very similar story, vision of helping small F&B stores. Corona kicked in, we pivoted to B2C, and then we passed Corona, and then we were back opening B2B, and then we merged. So obviously, with the merger comes with its challenges, but it's good that we've overcome it in the last 3 months. Just generally, you know, making sure the culture is right, people understand the why, integrating the tech team, centralizing all the back office to Egypt. That's been a challenge. Another challenge that we've seen is the rising cost of food, and you know, the end consumer is feeling it as well. But we, as you know, a distributor, also feel that this rising cost of food is making end consumers look for alternative options. So we have to then go find different suppliers to try to make sure we have a variety of prices, you know, when we're selling different foods. That's from our end. And I'll let you discuss a few others.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk more about what we have done to overcome the challenges. I mean, obviously, as a startup, and still I would consider it as an early stage startup, we have to be very flexible and resilient. So basically, we're always questioning, we're always iterating, we embrace failure. So it's okay to launch something, a product, and to test it with the customers. Always listen to our customers' feedback, and I think that's what made us click together, because we have this mindset of starting something from scratch and building it as we go. It was never about the hyper growth. It was never about growth at any cost. It's always about finding product market fit, helping the business, our customers, basically solving real pain problem, and in the meantime we have to be able to make decent money out of it.
Makes sense. I want to shift for the last couple questions to be really like forward looking and future looking. So 5-10 years from now, how do you think, like the picture that you painted at the beginning of how food system works in the Middle East, how do you think that will have changed? What does the food system look like few years down the line?
Sure. So in the region, I think you're going to see agriculture growing quite fast over the next 10 years, so much less importation. Another thing that we're going to see is more, I would say, farm to table, or less steps in between. You're going to get a large, well, currently today we have 100 restaurants for every 100,000 residents. The baseline in the region is 400 for every 100,000 residents, so it's going to 4x that. So if we manage to do a good work, we can be part of that growth and capture that growth. That's where I see this going. Yeah.
And in terms of, obviously, you know, there's private enterprise, yourself being one of the leading ones driving some of this change. Curious about the other side, like public sector. Where are they involved in driving some of the change in the food systems in the region? Of course, it's going to vary country to country, but maybe some notable examples from the markets that you guys are in.
I think it's public sector is I would focus. They are focusing on helping the startup ecosystem in general. It's not like a food specific issue, but what we have seen, the tech startup in the region, the whole region, has risen significantly within almost the 3 or 4 years since 2019. Before that, we never heard about startups and VCs in the region. So I think this is helped by the governments. They are trying to, like, especially in Saudi Arabia now, they're giving more incentives for companies to move their headquarters to Saudi Arabia. Even subsidies when it comes to payroll and tax havens and some of these implications. So I think what we have seen is basically a very simple and smooth ecosystem to enable entrepreneurs start building companies without any bureaucracy or something of that end. And we have seen that the whole ecosystem developed from VCs, from investors, from advisors, even when it comes to calibers. If you want to hire like good employees, whether it's tech talent or in the Middle East, I think it's the place to go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And some of these government initiatives, particularly in KSA, have been really well publicized and made them begin to be a destination across the world, and a place that tech ecosystems in North America and Europe are looking to, and starting to source deals, look for LPs, etc. So it's a really interesting and exciting time, I think, to be building in that country and in others in the region. You guys are obviously in the midst of fundraising as well. So, and you described, you know, how you want to be involved in that future vision for the region's food system. How does the fundraise that you're doing right now help you get there? How much are you guys looking to raise? Kind of how is it a key building block towards that vision?
Yeah, great question, Hani. So we're looking to raise, initially it was $4 million. We've actually raised now 4.1. We're increasing this to $8 million. We want to basically strengthen our balance sheet given the economic uncertainty in the future. Also, we want to be more competitive in the next 2 years. We see this explosion happening now. Really, our goal is to push with our B2B side now. We feel we've established great processes, great systems. We've tested that with a small sample of 50 F&B stores. And now we just want to start ramping up, bringing more customers and growing the customer base in that region. So that's really why we're raising for and where we want to get to. Ideally, we're looking to end the year with a run rate of $100 million. So that's like 10xing where we are today. And we believe that's quite achievable given that, you know, in the region, it's $100 billion market in the regions we're in. So
yeah, super exciting. And I mean, we've spoken before. I'm very excited about NOMU's future, and I think you're, you know, it's in great hands with you two at the helm. Any last words that you would want to share about what you're working on, why it should be exciting for, you know, investors or just folks in tech in general across the world, not just in the region itself?
Yeah, I want to add that we're pretty much focusing on implementing technology in our operations because the business seems very traditional, operational based. However, we use so many technology and data points that we collect on a daily basis to improve our customer's journey and even improve our offerings. One of the features that we're rolling very soon is basically group buying. This is something for our B2C offering where we can enable more of a social commerce. Customers can aggregate their baskets and get even better discounts. We have heard about this model rising in China, like Pinduoduo, for example, have been leading on this, and we haven't seen this in the Middle East. So we are one of the first companies that are going to roll out this model. Also, when it comes to pricing, we're also using the AI to have dynamic pricing to our customers to differentiate between promotions sensitive and price sensitive customers and other customers where we don't have to give so many promos in order to acquire them. We're also using the technology to build those insights about the customer's habits. Those are like some of the features that we're building in order to enhance our operations and optimize it.
yeah, I would add that really one of the, I'd say, key aspects of revenue generation in this business in a not so distant future is once you have the right distribution to sizable amount of F&B stores, a key revenue stream we want to unlock is actually financing, right? This also is going to help F&B stores grow. This is very hard to access here in the region. If you're a middle-sized business, that's hard to achieve. So imagine if you're a small restaurant, you know, if you're generating like $500,000 a year, and there's a huge potential for us to basically help them increase their cash flow, giving them 60, 90 days credit, which would help them operate better in exchange for higher margins, right? So that's a really good and exciting channel that we're looking for down the line as well.
Amazing. Well, really excited to follow along, see where the journey takes you. I haven't seen any questions in the chat, so I think we can pretty much wrap things up there. I'll send a quick follow-up note via email to everyone who attended and RSVP'd. But really, thank you both, Salman and Shihab, so much for your time, sharing your work. Ya'atikum al-afia, and really, really excited for what the future holds for you and NOMU.
Thank you so much, Hani, and thank you everyone for joining the call.
Thank you, Hani. Allah Afik. Pleasure to be here.
All right. See everyone. Thank you.
See you. Bye.